Hey guys, Celeste here from Hexen Arcane, and I'm here to talk about something a little more lighthearted and fun than I have been. Can't be serious all the time. In fact, if you know me, I can't be serious most of the time, but I do like talking about true crime cases, and those are obviously really serious and not something to be too lighthearted about. So I have to mix it up every once in a while with weird conspiracy theories or other ideas. And this is one of those. As you probably know by now, I have this weird love of conspiracy theories, like all conspiracy theories. I can't help it. It's like a creative what if with wild leaps in deductive reasoning and also sleuthing gone horribly wrong mixed together. Or right, however you want to look at it. And I do like the idea that it's just possible, however improbable. Like, people come up with enough evidence where you're like, I can almost see that, even if it's the most unlikely thing in the world. Do I really think we're being governed by crab people? No, but it's fun to think about. That brings me to one of my, I would call, pet theories. It isn't quite a conspiracy theory, but it's an older theory that I think is interesting, but it's been widely rejected by the scientific community, and I would definitely keep that in mind as we talk about this. So this theory is a goofy theory on how the continents developed. And I think it's a fun one to explore. I'm talking about the little known expanding Earth theory. As we know, continental drift and plate tectonics is the widely accepted theory, but it always seemed kind of weird to me picturing in my mind where you have this like blob of a continent on one side of the earth and then like nothing on the other side except for a giant ocean. Like, how does that even happen? How does that one blob of a continent even form? In pondering that idea to myself one day, I started Googling theories and I came across this bizarre throwback to the early 1900s. I do have to give a small disclaimer that just because I talk about an idea or conspiracy theory doesn't mean that I actually believe it. I just love doing research and getting into a topic, and I like to talk about it as well. And I love hearing what other people think about it too. So this is presented as a result of me just looking into the research about this theory and nothing more. So don't read too much into it. I am not a flat earther. I am not an expanding earther. I'm not actually crazy. I just like conspiracy theories and weird theories. As for the origins of this theory, the very first documented discussion on the possibility seems to have originated actually with Charles Darwin in the early 1800s, based on observations that he made on his travels that some parts of the landscape appear to have been pushed upward. He figured that that would be explained by the Earth slowly expanding outward. So this was kind of something he postulated in his writings, I believe. I'm not sure how it gained popularity, but I do know that Alfred Wegener presented the idea in a German convention in 1912. The expanding Earth, or also known as growing Earth theory, was first presented as a hypothesis based on the idea that the Earth was initially covered by one solid continent. Thermal expansion caused volcanic activity, which further caused the continents to break apart into smaller pieces and further move away from each other as the Earth grew in size. So it used to be significantly smaller to the point where all the continents were able to fit together like a big puzzle and cover the surface of the planet. Then, according to the theory, there was an expansion of the Earth that caused the surface to break apart and pull away from each other. Weird, right? So how did the oceans develop according to this theory? Because even if you can make sense of the thermal expansion aspect, it was bothering my brain as to where all the water came from. I mean, that much water would have to be somewhere, right? And if the Earth smaller, where was it? One idea I heard about this, just completely absurd, that there was no water on the Earth at all originally, and it all came from frozen ice meteors hitting the Earth. No. No. I absolutely refuse to even accept that as a possibility. No. There is no way that all of the ocean, that expansive, gigantic ocean, could have been the result of many, many frozen meteors that would deposit oceans worth of water on the planet. No, it makes no sense at all. I'm sorry, but whoever said that, that is really wacko. No. My brain is rejecting that outright. The other theory is that the entire planet started out as a gigantic ocean. Like this huge, deep ocean that covered the entire planet. And as the Earth expanded and pulled the continents apart, they actually emerged from the ocean to form the continents that we know and love today as the ocean depth decreased. I don't know about that. So I don't know how that would form a core if the continents, were they right? That's just, I'm confused thinking of it, because if the Earth pulled apart and then the ocean would fall down between the cracks that were created and I guess solidify into the ocean floor as the rest of it that was this ocean floor became continents. I don't know. Apparently that's the idea here. So it was in the 1970s when plate tectonics was presented, expanding Earth or growing Earth theory was widely discredited and fell into relative obscurity. It was basically dismissed because there had been no real scientific principles that we know of that support this type of planetary expansion and mass accumulation on the scale that would be needed to increase the size of the Earth by that much. It's a weird theory. There are really only two things that make this compelling to me as a theory. First one is, as I mentioned, Pangea seems like such a weird, awkward, unnatural formation of a giant continent stuck on one side of the Earth. And the other is that if you look at the shapes of the continents and shrink them down and form them together, they almost look like they would fit together that way. But I don't know, that isn't really enough for me to believe it, but I refuse to accept Pangea as well. I will tell you that much. So hopefully I can find some other theory eventually that will explain it for me, or someone will explain to me that it's not actually a concept of a giant cluster of continents stuck together on one side of the planet with a giant ocean on the other side like I'm picturing. And maybe I just wasn't paying enough attention to science class, or I'm possibly dumb. So with any of those possibilities in mind, please let me know what you think. What do you think of expanding Earth theory? And is it as crazy as I think it is that they're saying that meteors caused it? And in general, am I crazy for loving conspiracy theories, especially this one, which isn't really a conspiracy, but I guess it counts that way. If you believed it now, I would call it a conspiracy theory. So if anyone out there right now believes expanding Earth theory, they are conspiracy theories. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you had as much fun as I did with this topic. I love researching these weird ones. So anyway, have a great day.